The evening was still young as far as Serverman was concerned. You could taste the autumn chill of the evening. Jonathan, however, one of the 4 remaining guests that dined with Thomas earlier that evening, was a mild-mannered individual with a penchant for solitude as well. He truly enjoyed the warm embrace of his quaint, dimly lit home. His evening seemed to be progressing rather well. A glass of exquisite whiskey in his hand, the smooth liquid cascading down his throat, the burn offering a comforting warmth against the cold of the night. Stepping towards the bathroom, his heart humming a contented tune, he was abruptly confronted by a sight that drained all warmth from his body. The bathroom mirror, usually a plain, emotionless slab of reflective glass, was now smeared with a sinister message written in a terrifying shade of crimson. It read, "Dinner for 2." The words were scrawled with a shaky hand, drips of blood trickling down the mirror like teardrops. As the horrific reality of the message began to sink in, Jonathan's blood turned to ice. His heart pounded like a war drum in his chest, the sound deafening in the silent house. But before he could fully process the terrifying implication of the message, a figure materialized in the mirror behind him. The reflection of Serverman, his face obscured by the dark cascading shawl hoodie draped over his non-revealing face. It appeared to be a mask of shadows, with a grotesque apparition, a phantom born of nightmares. Before Jonathan could muster a scream or even turn around, the reflection of a heavy, cast-iron skillet shimmered ominously in the mirror. With a swift, merciless swing, the skillet connected with his temple. His world spun and then went dark, his limp body crumpling onto the cold, tiled floor. When he finally clawed his way back to consciousness, Jonathan found himself hanging by his wrists in his own living room, his body swaying like a macabre pendulum. He was completely nude, his vulnerability amplifying the terror coursing through his veins. Serverman, a silhouette against the moonlit window, stood watching him with an eerie silence. A sliver of moonlight glinted off something in the Serverman's hand, a cheese grater. The grater was a cruel parody of domesticity, its purpose twisted into a tool of torture. Serverman began to run it across Jonathan's body, the metal teeth biting into his flesh with every pass. Each stroke was a symphony of agony, a chorus of screams ripped from Jonathan's throat echoing through the darkness. He writhed in pain, his mind a whirlwind of confusion and terror. "Why?" he managed to gasp, his voice a raspy whisper. But the Serverman offered no answer, his silence more terrifying than any response. As if the night wasn't already a descent into the deepest pits of horror, Serverman then reached for a bottle. The clear liquid inside appeared harmless, but when he began to pour it over Jonathan's mutilated body, the true nature of the liquid was revealed. It was vinegar. The vinegar seeped into the raw, grated wounds, each drop a bolt of excruciating pain. The sharp sting was unbearable, the sensation 1,000 times more torturous than the grating. Jonathan's screams crescendoed into a guttural cry that echoed through the house, a testament to his torment. His body convulsed violently, the shock of the pain was so agonizing. How much more could his heart bear? After what seemed like a grueling eternity, Serverman ceased his horrific activities, leaving Jonathan in his anguished state. His sobs and cries for mercy were answered by the thick, vacuous silence that engulfed the room once again. His body was a mutilated canvas of agony, every nerve ending shrieking in pain. Slowly, the panic and horror began to fade into an odd tranquility born of shock and blood loss. Serverman, his silhouette now monstrous in the moonlight, moved to a corner of the room, far from the flickering flames. An eerie calm fell over him as he watched Jonathan's body twitching and convulsing, the desperate fight for life raging on within him. From his position, Serverman retrieved an old, worn-out antique record player, its polished wood glistening in the dim light. From his pocket, he extracted a vinyl record, its grooves reflecting the dancing flames. The silence in the room was soon shattered by the melodic strains of Tchaikovsky's Marcia Slave, its eerie symphony mirroring the macabre scene of torment and torture. This was not a hasty act of violence, but a meticulously, almost ritualistic execution of sadistic desires. It was as though time itself stood still, held captive by the monstrous spectacle. Despite his weakened state, Jonathan could hear every note, every nuanced strain of the music, its haunting melody replacing the tormented screams and cries that had filled the room moments ago. The music washed over him, its eeriness gripping his heart with icy fingers, its profound sadness echoing his own. Jonathan was forced to endure this sick orchestra of pain and music, his tormentor silently watching him from the edge of his vision. Jonathan was reduced to a mere object, a plaything subjected to unspeakable acts of brutality under the cold, indifferent gaze of Serverman. As the music reached its crest, Jonathan could feel his consciousness slipping away. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Serverman approaching, the music swelling to a tumultuous crescendo. As he neared, he held aloft a final instrument of torment, a chef's knife. Its glinting blade, reflected in the contrasting strains of the music, added a palpable note of dread to Jonathan's fading senses. As the blade descended swiftly, the violent symphony of the night came to an abrupt end, and so did Jonathan's consciousness. This horrific encounter would become a chilling chronicle of the sadistic urges of Serverman. His acts were not mere transgressions against morality, but a descent into a profound abyss of perversion. It was a testament to the grotesque theatrics Serverman conducted, a horrifying display of power and savage control.